So, what the fuck am I even talking about? That's probably what you said when you read the title of this video. But I promise, I have a good explanation behind this admittedly bizarre topic. If you were to make a list of all of the similarities between Naruto and Family Guy, what's the first thing that would come to mind? Well, they're both animated television series, that's true. They're both extremely popular and successful, that's also true. They both released in the early 2000s, that's factually accurate. And, they both have a little white dog character. Yeah, the clear similarities start to run dry after only a few things. The most important similarity on that list to me is the popularity one. There are some deeper similarities between these two shows that I'll get into later in the video, but it's the public perception of these two very different series that I want to mainly focus on in this essay. In their respective genres, Family Guy being an animated American comedy and Naruto being a Japanese battle shonen, they are without question two of the biggest and most iconic pieces of entertainment in those genres. Both shows took the world by storm and cultivated an international fan base and mass appeal that is still growing even today. But this is what you already know. I most likely don't need to remind you who Peter Griffin and Naruto Uzumaki are. You've been watching them, or you've at least been seeing their image for over half your life by now. But just because something is popular or was once popular doesn't mean that it still doesn't have its detractors. I started watching Family Guy when I was 7 years old and Naruto when I was 12. I've been a huge fan of both shows since that time, and I've watched the discourse and general attitudes about both shows change and evolve over the years. What I've learned is that despite the shows having an insanely large amount of fans, they both seem to have an insanely large amount of haters as well. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to or seen on the internet claim that Family Guy isn't funny and Family Guy was never funny, or Family Guy is trash because it just does stupid cutaway jokes for 20 minutes and calls that an episode.
Move the towel. Oh, they spotted me.
I also can't tell you how many weebs I've seen call Naruto mid and say that One Piece, Bleach, Dragon Ball Z, and other similarly iconic shonen all blow it out of the water. And just to be clear, I'm not saying that those opinions are wrong because obviously it's all subjective. But as someone who has always vehemently disagreed with those opinions, it's been interesting to see how similarly these two titans of media get treated by the general population. Let's talk about the era that these shows both came up in. The way back in the day time of the early 2000s. Both Family Guy and Naruto released at interesting times for their respective genres. They both came out while the GOATs of their field were still in their prime. The Simpsons is objectively the greatest and most iconic and prolific American cartoon ever made, and Dragon Ball Z is objectively the greatest, most iconic and prolific anime of all time. Family Guy took so much inspiration from The Simpsons that it's not even worth going into detail about. I'll just show you this picture of the Simpsons family and this picture of the Griffin family, and you'll most likely get my point. I remember a lot of people back in the day describing Family Guy as The Simpsons on crack, or a more unhinged version of The Simpsons. To compare that with Naruto and DBZ, I remember all my friends who loved Dragon Ball Z telling me that I had to watch Naruto because it was the first anime since DBZ to give them that same inspiring rush of adrenaline and hype that only the best battle shonen can give. I'm not saying that Naruto is as derivative of DBZ as Family Guy was of The Simpsons, but there are definitely some similarities in tone and vibe to the two shows. And both Naruto and Family Guy felt like the next big things in their field since the GOATs of the genre came into the game. But funnily enough, they would both eventually be surpassed, at least in public opinion, by another show in their genre that came out just a few years before. To break it down as simple as possible, basically, DBZ is to The Simpsons as One Piece is to South Park, as Naruto is to Family Guy. Oh, and I guess as Pokemon is to SpongeBob too. Does this make sense? I really hope this makes sense, because it only barely makes sense to me, but I do think I'm onto something here. Both shows took an established formula for what works in their genre and pushed it to a limit that fans of the time loved. Family Guy might have gotten canceled in 2004 due to the idiocy of the Fox network at the time, but the DVD sales were so astronomically high that Family Guy became the first show ever on American television to get brought back after being canceled, a trend that unfortunately would become much more common a decade or so in the future. Naruto was everywhere back in that era. DBZ and Pokemon aside, Naruto was the first anime I remember hitting the mainstream that actually was acceptable to talk about in public, without fear of being called a loser. Clothing, action figures, video games, Naruto mania really hit its peak in the early to mid 2000s, and I think you could say the same for Family Guy too. So many of the most iconic, memorable, and hilarious moments from Family Guy came from its first 7 to 8 seasons. It was like every Monday after a new episode would air, all anyone could talk about at school or work was their favorite scene or joke from last night's episode. And it was around the same time that the Naruto Chunin exam arc was airing, and for my money, the Chunin exam arc of Naruto might just be the greatest anime arc of all time. Definitely the best arc in the show. Both of these shows came out of the gate hot and enjoyed instant success and acclaim, but as time passed, it felt as if they both gradually started to fall off, as the kids say. Family Guy continued to be funny into the late 2000s and even the early 2010s, but it was clear that it was starting to lose that same magic that it once had. Also, it didn't help that its biggest competition, South Park, started to really find its groove around season 6 or 7 and continued to just get better and better with each passing season. And the Naruto series basically went into ultimate filler mode after the Sasuke retrieval arc, and eventually the creator just started a new show with a 3-year time skip called Naruto Shippuden. Family Guy creator Seth MacFarlane also started splitting his time between Family Guy and his new cartoon American Dad, which for the sake of this video, I'm just going to consider his Shippuden. And I can't fail to mention that the late 2000s to early 2010s was a time of mass media expansion. Smartphones came into the world and quickly took over. Streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, Crunchyroll, and Funimation came into play. HD televisions and high-speed internet became the standard for homes across the world. Media and entertainment was growing at an exponential rate every year, and all of this allowed for further growth of the amount of shows and movies that the average person could watch. Anime as a genre became much more popular in this time as well, so anime fans and people who would soon become anime fans were able to find more niche and lesser-known shows to watch besides Naruto and the other mainstream top dogs of the genre. Animation also became easier to make, and it felt like every TV network at this time wanted to dip their toes into the cartoon pool, so edgy adult comedies like Family Guy started to feel less unique and special as the years went on. Don't get me wrong, Naruto Shippuden and Family Guy / American Dad were still very popular and successful shows during this era, but they no longer had that same hype and aura that they once had back in the day. And as we all moved into the late 2010s and early 2020s, it felt like there was a massive cultural shift into a more self-conscious and culturally sensitive environment that looked down on the crude, offensive, and sometimes just straight-up mean comedy style of a show like Family Guy. It became pretty common to hear people, especially younger people, say things like, American Dad is just Family Guy but actually funny. Family Guy's comedy aged like milk. Or, I can't believe people used to say Family Guy was funny. In the anime world, shows like Attack on Titan, My Hero Academia, One Punch Man, Demon Slayer, JJK, and many others led the charge for a new and refined form of shonen anime storytelling that didn't take 45 episodes to go through one arc, and instead gave their audience iconic and beloved stories that were told in a much more succinct manner. This major change to anime and manga storytelling has led a lot of people to denounce and criticize anime of the past like Naruto and DBZ that took their time to tell stories and maybe had a little bit more filler, a lot more filler, than your average story. But the craziest thing to me about all of this is that despite the recent hate that these shows have gotten, they're both technically still going. Family Guy is still airing new episodes, and Naruto is now in its second spin-off series about his annoying-ass son. And a lot of people hate Boruto, but it has gradually grown a core audience over the years, and even though a lot of people like myself no longer watch Family Guy, the actress who voices Lois Griffin has now been nominated for an Emmy 2 years running, so clearly the show is still putting something of quality out to the public. Both Naruto and Family Guy will go down as two of the most important and culturally defining shows of their time, and despite their many differences, hopefully this video has allowed you to see some of their very important similarities that help shape their long and seemingly never-ending legacies. They were both a huge part of my childhood and shaping me into the person that I am today. I legitimately could not imagine what my childhood would have been like without them. It's a shame that these shows couldn't sustain their initial greatness from when they first started, but nothing can be great forever. The shows have their flaws and shortcomings, but the impact that they made on the world is undeniable, and they both deserve an immense amount of respect and admiration for that, whether you like the actual quality of them or not. So this was kind of a weird one, right? This definitely wasn't like one of the videos I had planned in the pipeline, but just the idea came to me one day, just a realization I had. It was like, oh, let me see if I can make a quick little video about this. But I also made a Patreon that you can, subscribe to, give money to. It helps give me some confidence in making bigger videos about maybe some things that I otherwise wouldn't usually do. Because I do want to make videos that are more grander, but it's always like, well, if I make a video, if I take all the time to make a great big video and then it doesn't do well, then I feel like I just wasted my time. And when I say don't do well, I just mean like the engagement, right? Like I just want people to watch and be engaged, want to comment, want to start conversations and things like that. Because that's really what I make these videos for, is just to interact with you guys, find out what your opinions are so you hear my opinions, and then we can just discuss, talk, learn, maybe get mad at each other a little bit, but mostly just, learn more from the next person and things like that. But yeah, so I got a big retrospective video that I've been planning for a while. I got more anime related videos, like I said, the Patreon. I started a gaming channel a while ago that I've never really uploaded on, at least not in a very long time, that I want to make active again with some playthroughs and stuff like that. But yeah, just a few different things in the pipeline that people who have been watching me for a while hopefully will enjoy, and hopefully new people as well. But yeah, just wanted to pop in real quick, say that, and hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.